Hey guys, welcome to our new little subsection of the channel that we're calling the Steel City Styrene Mountain. Now, I know people will probably like look at it and go, what? This doesn't look any different than the other thing. It's still the same dude talking to the same mic on the same cruddy webcam. Alright, well, we're running two cameras right now because we're going to be doing our little year in review, and so the one model I've built is over here, and it's being recorded on the fancy new 1080i HD webcam that I bought. So, I figured rather than, running the new camera and then repositioning it and trying to figure everything out, I'd set the camera up with where I needed to be over here, and, then I just can put a fancy fade in, and all of a sudden we'll just be on that feed over there. So the idea, the principle behind it is these are going to be videos, series that involve things like some really, really basic tutorials of like maybe equipment rather than actual build skills. We might get into that eventually, but it seems like so many people have such basic questions, and I know that a lot of people have done videos about some of this stuff, so it's sort of like repeating it and being the last person to say something, to be the person who sees it next kind of thing. But, I'm going to put my own spin on things, I guess. I haven't necessarily watched every video about some of the topics I'm going to cover, so probably I'll cover some stuff that's already out there. Just be my imitable style and witty charm that will drag you into watching it. This will also be my op-ed channel when I have a issue or a problem that I want to address, and I don't want to clutter up one of the stash report videos. It'll come out in this format. Most of the videos probably will be on the new camera, so that'll be the main difference. Like I said, I really haven't figured out a way to get the still pictures of the box art to integrate into the video without going and doing it all in post-production with the new camera, short of running both cameras at the same time and then switching over to this one to do the actual still photos so that it'll look like basically the whole thing is all done at once. We may do that one time and see how hard it is to edit together and make it not look like crap and sound like crap. It should sound the same because it's the same mic input on both cameras, but we'll see. But that's like I said, down the road for another day on the other side of the channel. But like I said, this is our introduction video. So to explain myself, I live obviously near the Pittsburgh, not in Pittsburgh, but near it. Pittsburgh, for pretty much everybody who has been alive for the last, 50, 60 years, known as the Steel City. Now, we don't necessarily do that much steel here anymore. There's only probably 2 big mills running anymore. All the rest of it's, overseas, or there's still big works up outside of Chicago and down south where, you don't have to worry so much about union people. A lot of it went down there, too. And, as a result, we can sort of see. There's some great pictures. If you ever come to Pittsburgh, if you ever come to one of the 4 shows a year that go on out here, there are 2 what they call inclines, which are vehicular trams that go up the side of a hill that allowed, at the time, were built by major corporations. There's the ones that are still running on the Mon Incline and the Duquesne Incline. The Duquesne Incline was built by Duquesne Power and Light to get their employees off the big hill that overlooks the, I guess would be the west side of Pittsburgh, down into town so they could go to work. A lot of these inclines used to be able to carry cars, coal trains, things like that, big things. Only ones that are operating now are 2 small passenger things. They're on the National Historic Landmarks. You can ride from Pittsburgh up the hill or from up the hill down to Pittsburgh, one of the 2. They're still used a little bit by public transit. You can, I think the Mon Incline actually works with your Port Authority pass, but this is touristy stuff you don't need to know. The point is, you go up on top of the hill, you get the overlook of the city, which is not where I took the picture at the intro from. Actually, I took it from a different overlook, but there are a bunch of historic plaques and stuff like that, and one of them has a museum of how Pittsburgh looked in the 1940s, and that was that it got dark at noon because there was so much soot and smog and smoke in the air from all of the coal-fired steel mills and all of the associated things that went on with it. So we can see now. So that's a benefit of not having the steel mill, I suppose. But we're still all about Steel City. So that's what that is. And then I'm not sure I've heard the phrase someplace else and stole it, or if it's something I actually really did coin the other day. But I put a couple pictures up online, and I said that I was a couple more projects tossed on the Styrene Mountain. And when you really look at how much stuff I have and stuff I'll get, let's face it, it's one of those things that's like incredibly hard to stop once you start building a stash, because you're always, except for like a handful of people I know, going to build at a build rate that is much slower than your purchasing rate, unless you stop buying pretty much everything. And then you run into the danger, especially if you buy a lot of import kits, of not being able to buy something because the stuff that Aoshima, Fujimi, Tamiya does on spot runs, sometimes that stuff's there one day and it's not there the next. And there'll always be ways to get a hold of it, but it's usually way more expensive than it would be if you just bought it when it came out. And so we're going to do another video at some point. It's going to be sort of a compilation of 3 questions that CT Speed Shop asked last fall, I think. I'd have to go look at his channel archive to see when they were, because they were like right after I got into watching a lot of YouTube videos, and it was probably a couple months after I started making mine. So it was like early fall, and they were a couple weeks old then. So, and the questions were like, well, how many kits did you build? How many kits did you buy? And then like, why do you collect? Or why do you hoard? Or why do you buy more than you build, and stuff like that? So I actually have the intro film for that. It's just a matter of sort of congealing my thoughts into a coherent statement, if you will, and then we'll do that. I'm going to do another video here probably tomorrow or later on this week that will be also on this side of the channel. That will be my 2015 projects, sort of, so to show what I'm would be working on. At least here the first beginning of the year, my projects tend to ebb and flow as the spirit moves me, which is probably why I don't finish anything. I have the old modeler's ADD, as people like to call it. You work on something for a couple weeks, and then some other project calls out to you, and you start working on that, and eventually you have so much stuff piled up all over your bench that you have to clean your bench to find a spot to work, and then everything that you were working on gets reboxed and reshelved, and then it doesn't come out to play again for months or years. I got some stuff over on this side in the shelves that is from when I was a teenager, and some of it started, and it was just stuff I was working on at the time, then boxed it all up. I moved from Northeast Ohio from a place you've never heard of and you've never been to Cleveland, and I moved everything to Cleveland, and then I got like real jobs, and I was in college, and then dating and real cars, and that's sort of the beginning of the end of the break that everybody takes in their 20s basically. And then I actually, instead of selling it all or losing it all, I actually put it into storage when I moved a second time, and then it stayed in storage for years. Probably I paid like $50 a month for like 7 years to keep the stuff in storage. Finally moved into this house that I have, this corner of the basement is sort of like it's not a man cave because I refuse to call it that, but it's sort of a place that nobody comes to because it's out of the way of the washer and dryer and the furnace and everything. So it's, over here in the off where nobody looks at it. And so it allows me to go get all that stuff out of storage. And like I said, literally, I just packed the stuff up because, without going into a lot of personal history, I think I went through the same rebel phase that every guy does at like the age of 18 or 19, where you're just done living at home and you're going to go live on your own and prove your parents wrong that you can go do that. And so I literally just sort of one day, after I saved up the money to move, obviously, just picked up and left. And not like I had a bad relationship with my parents. It's just my dad was just here over Christmas, as a matter of fact. But I just sort of packed up everything as I was working on it and moved. So like I said, there's still stuff over here that I started 18, 19 years ago, 20 years ago in some cases, that, I just packed into the boxes that they belonged into, and then it traveled around. So my projects can go on forever if I put them away. So, that's why in Steel City, Styrene Mountain, will probably be SCSM for short, because that's a tongue twister. I've tripped over it myself a couple of times. This is not the first take of this video, let's put it that way. But let's say this year, in 2014, I finished one model. It was the Tamiya Porsche 911 Carrera. It's like the mid-90s Porsche. This tool probably will never be reissued again because I believe it was modified when they put out the 911 GT3 street version of the race car. I think there's also like a race version of that Porsche as well. I know there's a race version of the Porsche, but I think there's a race version in between the GT3 and the Carrera. But the tooling, I believe, has forever been changed when they made it into the GT3, so I don't think the Carrera will ever come out again. It's rather pricey on eBay, but I sort of hemmed and hawed around about buying it, paying the $50+ it was going to cost, and I found one that some guy was getting rid of for like $10. The box was all shot to hell and back, but I don't collect the boxes. I know a lot of guys do the box collecting, and it's whatever. I collect instruction sheets. I have a box back here of every single kit instructions maybe I've started. I'd have to go dig through them, but I believe it's pretty much every model kit I've ever built. I have the instructions to. I don't know why I say that, and why that survived all the moves in college and everything, but that did. But what I was going with that was this 24-hour build. Now, I think it came out of Canada originally, up around the Toronto area, I want to say. It was a bunch of guys got together and built models, just for the S and giggles of it. And Gary Kolchak and his crew down in Morgantown, West Virginia, basically, down that area anyway, sort of saw that and took it and made it their own to a certain extent. And now I believe we're in the 9th year of this 24-hour build going on, and it has sort of gone from Gary and a group of his friends and Bobby Boggs, whose house I went to last year to build this, and a group of his friends all getting together and building a big group build at one person's house, to the point where last year I think there were 60 people involved, and probably only maybe 15 or 20 of those people were grouped together in groups to build together, and everybody else has sort of grown, and the internet has sort of brought us all together in that sense. This year, for 2016, the dates are the last weekend of this month. I think that's 25th and 26th. 24th and 25th. And I'm going to put in the description here, I'm going to put a link to the Facebook page, as well as the Fotki page that Gary runs for the 24-hour build. If you want to join the 24-hour build after reading more about it, all you have to do is contact Gary on Facebook, and you just read the Facebook page. It'll tell you all the rules. It'll tell you all the fun stuff that you need to know about it, because there are a few rules. It can't be a snap tie kit. It can't be a pre-painted kit. You have to paint the kit. That is the John Brolin rule. John tried to basically build a bunch of molded-in color kits several years in a row, and eventually they put a stop to that. John has a rule named after him, and that is that you must paint the kit. Much like Chevy Cheeseburger's 48-hour builds, the 24-hour build is a very frenetic activity, especially if you're at one of these places where 4 or 5 people are sharing a paint booth, which is what I was doing last year. The 48-hour build is sort of an eternity of time if you've ever done one of these 24-hour builds, because with the 48-hour build, at least you can go to sleep. At least once, maybe twice in the build. The 24-hour build starts at noon on Saturday, runs to noon on Sunday, and you are awake overnight. You will never get the thing finished if you go to bed. You may be able to take a nap if you paint the thing and it's already pretty much done by, say, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. You might be able to catch a nap till like 6, 7, then you got to get up and cram out the last 5 hours. But if you're working with a group of people, obviously you're not going to sleep. You're all just going to be hanging out and talking. The point was to run it during the 24 hours of Daytona. So, what of the 24 hours of Daytona they actually show, because they don't air the whole race anymore, thanks to Fox and Speed and all the rest of these channels changing ownership 10,000 times in the last 4 or 5 years. But I will not be participating this year. My job requires me to work on Saturdays. And I don't get back until Sunday about 3 hours before the build's over, and I can't build in the truck while I'm driving, obviously, and, I have no way to paint something in that amount of time. I could theoretically build if I didn't want to sleep in the truck and then try to drive back. Yeah, no, that's not going to happen either, because I'm one of those people that requires my sleep if I'm, driving. Maybe next year if we get this whole thing done, because the little studio that I work out of, my little corner here, I need to wire it up a little bit, in the sense that this basement. I think I talked about this one other video. This basement was built in 1957 with the house above it, and so it's not really designed to be lived in. All of my electrical is running off of those bulb adapters, the things you screw into a light bulb socket that have plug-ins on them, and I only have like 3 outlets in my entire basement. There's one way over here that runs my deep freezer, and then I have a 220 line for my washer and my dryer, and that's it. The water heater's hardwired into the electrical system, the furnace is hardwired into the electrical system, and I have no outlets, which is why I don't have a paint booth. Well, one of the many reasons I don't have a paint booth. So, at some point, I gotta do a whole bunch of other work before I start spending money on myself in this corner, but I want to put some sockets up in the ceiling and run some of those fluorescent shop lights, and then I want to run some conduit sockets down the side so I can have my paint booth. I don't really use I have a patched up action airbrush. I haven't used it in probably 20 years, but I have one in an air compressor and everything. I'll be able to plug that in. I have a stereo system I want to set up down here, plug that in. I want to have, I like to take this right here beside me. Let's see, try to get it in, it's right here. You'll see, I'll be filming it in a second, is my work area, and I like to put it either against the wall back here where this shelf is that has all these Crown Vics and stuff on it, or I have another desk that's a corner desk and put it over here in the corner. And, I like to replace this laptop because there's a whole story of saga and intrigue about this laptop and the fact that it doesn't charge the batteries anymore, and get a desktop, and, because this laptop's, I think, 5-6 years old. Or no, I should say 8 or 9 years old, 5-6 years old. That'd be nice. But there's a bunch of improvements I like to do. All that stuff costs money, and like I said, I've got a few things outside the house, a few things inside the house, a couple trees need to get taken down, a furnace to replace. So maybe next year, maybe by this time next year, I'll have gotten all those bills and stuff taken care of, and I can start tweaking the corner here. But I couldn't really take the time off this year to either go drive to somebody's house or participate in it otherwise. So I'm going to be skipping it this year, but I did go last year. And like I said, this is what this kit's all about. And, let's just flip over to that camera, and we'll go over the model and explain the whys of the reasons it looks the way it does. It's not one of my favorite builds. It is the first completed model that's not a snap-tight kit that I've done since coming back into the hobby, so I guess there's that. But as a paint interaction with a clear, and I tried to take a shortcut, and it's just easier let's go roll that beautiful bean footage, as the bakes bush beans guy would say. All right, guys. So here we are over on the HD cam. We can see food stains on my thing. Well, actually, not food stains, they're water stains, but right here and right here, I look like a slob. All right, guys. So this is the model in question. It is like I said, the Tamiya Porsche 911 Carrera. I think it's supposed to be like a 96 or 97 Euro spec car. It's not a North American spec vehicle. And so it's real hard to find reference photos for the exact way the interior is configured, because it's not the way the North American car was, as far as the way our Porsche cars were sold here in the United States. There are a couple of things up front about this model kit that stink on ice. One of them is the fact that the windshield wiper on the passenger side is broken. I didn't realize that I'd snapped part of it off. It was damaged before I got it. It was just never there as far as the part goes. The travesties of buying something off eBay, I guess. I just thought one wiper was smaller than the other, and I didn't realize that it was broken until I got done building it. The other thing is that the paint itself, while it probably doesn't look all that bad on this video, or maybe it does, it's hard to tell looking at the recording screen, but I had a problem with the paint and the clear coat interacting with one another. And what basically had happened was this model is molded in metallic silver, and the paint on this is Tamiya TS40, which is metallic black. Now, that is not a factory Porsche color, but I wanted to use it on a different build, and so I thought this would be a good opportunity to paint something with that color and allow me to see what it looked like. So, knowing that we had, Bobby, his son, me, and one of Bobby's friends. There's 4 of us being snowed into the mountains of West Virginia. This turned out to be a really lousy weather day. Weather night, I should say. The day wasn't too bad, but I had to take like 5 runs up a hill with my minivan to get out of his driveway. I knew a bunch of us would be crowding this paint booth, so I figured that the easiest way to make my paint booth time not take up so much of the time and not get into a situation where I was fighting over the paint booth would be to skip the primers phase. You can use, obviously, Tamiya paint on top of Tamiya plastic without it causing a problem. These two things are designed by the Japanese to work together. Obviously, Tamiya makes several great primers, probably the best primers out there, if you're not going to paint something, say, with automotive paint. Because if I use Duplicolor a lot, and if you're going to use automotive paint, you need to use the primer that goes underneath of it. I know a lot of people who do primer with Tamiya and then use Duplicolor over top of it, but I like to maintain paint systems. By that I mean use all of one kind of paint. If I'm going to use Tester's One Coat, it's going to be Tester's One Coat primer, paint, and clear. If I'm going to use Tamiya paint, it's going to be Tamiya paint, Tamiya primer, and Tamiya clear. Obviously, Tamiya clear just recently came back on the market here in the United States thanks to California and all their carcinogen worries. We didn't have clear here for almost a year. And if I'm going to use Duplicolor paint, I'm going to use Duplicolor primer, Duplicolor paint, and then Duplicolor clear. The thing was, like I said, we have no Tamiya clear here when I built this model. I did not have any previous clear in stock, and you could not buy any. So I had a half of a can, or 3/4 of a can of Tester's One Coat clear, wet look clear, that I had used to just basically seal in some decals on a Wheels of Fire Snap-Tight kit that me and my daughter had built. And so I took that can of clear with this brand new can of TS40 and went down there. Now, I painted the whole thing, and it all worked out real well. And, the paint looked decent. I don't know, maybe you guys can leave comments down in the comment section, but I don't really care for this color of paint. I'm going to throw some still pictures up at the end of the video from outside, because this looks much better outside. Under direct light, sunlight, especially outside, it looks fantastic as far as I'm concerned, paint, color-wise. However, my models don't live outside, and I assume yours don't either. Inside, I really just don't care for this black. It's not that it looks brown, but just the metallic in it makes the black not look a real black. It looks more of it's supposed to be quantum silver if you get the Aston Martin that Tamiya does, and to me that's the problem. This looks more like a really, 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 really dark silver or dark gray than it does a metallic black. So it may probably work for what I wanted to use it for, which was on that Aston Martin. However, it doesn't. I just don't like this color, this paint. But when you build this kit, when you build this Porsche, the only part of it that's separate. Bear with me, guys, as we work with this camera. I'm not used to doing this kind of stuff. The only part of this thing that's separate is this front bumper area. This lower front bumper is a separate piece. However, the rest of this kit, in its entirety, is pretty much as you see it. It's all there. The only other separate sort of piece, other than obviously the mirrors, is this spoiler area right here. Earthquake. I could fix that and leave that out, but I'm going to leave that in because I think that's going to be funny, because now my camera's all wonky. Let's see if we can fix it. Whoop. Too much. There we go. We're going to look back at this in a year and think that was hysterical, believe me. But the only other separate part is this spoiler area. You can build the thing either with it down like it is here, or there is a sort of a one-piece rubber boot, if you want to call it that goes underneath of here. They can raise the spoiler up and, mimic the actuated spoiler that this car had in real life. I think it was, 50 miles an hour, maybe it was 45 miles an hour or so, that this thing kicked up the spoiler in real life. So, that being said, the front bumper, like I said, is a separate part. So I took the one look clear on it and went for the bumper, because I figured if there was going to be any kind of interaction with the paint and the clear, I would do it on the smallest part of the body that was going to be the same color as the body, because I glued this spoiler part. I painted it black underneath and then glued it down so that it would be, on here already. That way I wouldn't be trying to add it later or have fit problems with paint buildup or anything like that. So I painted the bumper, and the bumper had been drying for about 3 or 4 hours in a dehydrator, and the paint proceeded to immediately start sliding right off the bumper. It bubbled up and started running off. It's the first time I've ever seen anything like this. I'd asked a bunch of people who knew, because I personally had never put those two paints together, and I asked a bunch of people I knew, can you use Testors One Coat clear lacquer over Tamiya acrylic lacquer paint? Oh, yep, sure you can. And maybe, you know what, guys, you can under normal circumstances, but I certainly could not. Tamiya paint is very well known that if you're going to paint something with Tamiya TS paint, you paint it either, you clear coat it within the first 24 hours, or you clear coat it after a month. Something about after the first 24 hours, it can go all sideways on you when you try to clear coat it. And so I wasn't really worried about the time factor, of course, because it was a 24-hour build. 24 hours later, this thing's going to be clear coated one way or another, right? So I went with it, and I said the reaction to the paint and the clear was just terrible. Now, I went threw it back in the dehydrator. I let it dry for another, 3 or 4 hours. So now we're talking about it being after midnight. And I could see that I was not going to be able to finish this within the 24 hours because I still hadn't actually cleared the body itself. And so I just started slowing my build down and sort of taking some time with it rather than trying to rush it through. And after I let it dry for a little more, I went out and I basically dry sanded it a little bit to get some of the big runs off of it. Then I wet sanded it all smooth. Didn't actually throw it in the paint stripper because it really didn't turn out to be that bad. It looked a lot worse than it did. You know, one of those things that so many of us get into with paint things is that the paint looks so bad as we're spraying it, you just freak out and you throw stuff in paint stripper. And then if you just would let it dry, go calm down and then come back to it a day or a week later, chances are the problem isn't nearly as big as you think it is, and you can take care of it a lot easier just by doing some wet sanding and taking care of the actual paint issue rather than dumping the entire thing into paint stripper because that ends up taking you all back down to bare plastic. And painting is a dark art as far as I'm concerned. I used to paint on commission when I was in my 20s. I've never really done like full-size car painting, but I did paint models on commission. I was no Don Yost by any stretch of the imagination, but I charged people like about $20 or so and paint their models for them. And my specialty was black, and it's sort of been one of my things is like I want to paint something black and show it off, because everybody seems to have a problem with black paint. It's every piece of dust, every blah blah blah. Yeah, well, I used to be able to paint black pretty well, and I still think I should be able to. I haven't done one in a while, and this is probably not a really good example of one, as it turns out. But so about 6 in the morning or so, I was talking to Bobby about the paint problems, and he said, "Well, I got this other clear, and I don't even remember what it was. It was some off-brand like dollar store clear, which is whatever. I mean, I have nothing against saving any money, and so I tried it, and you know what? It really didn't do too badly in the actual laying down, but it especially on the hood, it sort of left a texture, and I don't want to say it etched the plast paint because obviously this thing in paint stripper out, but it left the hood area with this sort of texture to it that I can only describe as being, looks like I spray painted it with sandpaper. It's not orange peel. I know what orange peel looks like. It is a weird, bumpy texture. Now, I have taken this thing, and the reason it probably doesn't look all that bad necessarily is that I took this thing and I went ahead and polished the paint out anyway. I wet sanded it from about 4,800 up to 12,000, and then used the polishing compound that comes in the micro mesh polishing kit. And the reason I did that, and the reason I didn't strip this, is because I wanted this to be one of those builds that was a foundational build. I've lost so many models. So ironically, I still have all my unbuilt, but all the built models, all the models I have that would be the stuff I won classes with at contests. I never won Best of Show or anything like that, but I've won my class at contests before. All those models got tossed accidentally when I thought the box that they were in had nothing but trash in them when I was moving out of a duplex into it, and I did not realize that until probably 5 years ago when I moved into this house, that none of those models exist anymore. And it's sort of one of those moments because those were my really good things, and they're gone. I have no proof that I've ever won a contest because all the little plaques and trophies were in that, all the contest models were in that box, and so this ends up being ground zero as far as I'm concerned. This is the first completed build I've made since I've come back into the hobby. Now one model in 5 years, and probably bought 250 models. So that's why I keep saying 2015 is the year of the build. Now, going on the actual thing, like I said, I have, and you really can't see it on this video, thank God, is the fact that when the clear and the paint interacted with one another, it ghosted my panel lines. Now, that is, of course, the price you pay for being a trying to take a shortcut. Primer it. Had I primered it, I bet you that would not have happened, because the case where clear activated the paint, and then the clear went underneath the paint and ghosted the paint line. It ghosted the mold lines back up.
You're just coming back into the hobby, or you're just starting the hobby. What that means is that obviously on a model kit, try to spin this around without knocking the camera over with my other hand. I'm being real delicate here because I accidentally knocked the driver's mirror off trying to bring this downstairs. There are panel lines when you, on this kit, on the 930 T3, on the Porsche Boxster, the mold line runs right down the front of the fender here. Now, the bumper's a separate part, so you don't have to worry about it. And then you have a mold line that juts out of the seat panel, runs down the back of the seat panel, across where the taillight mounts, and then down across the back bumper. Guys, if you don't realize there are mold lines on your models, you need to stop what you're doing right now and look at them, because they're there. I know a lot of people who just paint right over whatever comes out of the box, and I don't want to be one of those people that says, well, you have to build the way I build, because I believe so long as you're having fun, like so many people on YouTube, I believe if you're having fun with what you're doing, then, you're doing it right. It's a different thing when you're doing it completely wrong and then you have an attitude about it. That's another video for another day. But, obviously a real Porsche doesn't have a great big, line down the fender right here. So you take some, I'm trying to think of what I use what they call sanding sticks. These were found in your ladies' accessory area of Walmart. They come. Let's see, I'm trying to see if I have any close by. Well, I have this one. This one's going to look really, really awful. Oop, and just tip the camera again. It will look really awful because it's well used. But this is it's a nail file, guys. That's what it is. But we've decided to manly call this a sanding stick in the building parlance, because we said that we went to Walmart and bought a bunch of nail files. Well, people might think bad things of us, and we're all macho, manly people. It's a nail file. I went into the nail accessories section next to the Tampax and bought nail files. I am okay with this. I have 3 kids and a wife. I've gone into the female accessory section on many times for ladies' accessories. I don't care, guys. It's not let's stop acting like we're a bunch of macho, actual building real car people. So you take the sanding stick. I'm not sure what the grid is on that. I think it's around 500 or so. And so you sand off your mold lines. Now your primer will, under most circumstances, ghost them back up. Maybe, depending on how heavily you apply your primer. If you shellac your models like you're trying to seal a deck, you're going to get your panel lines back. If you paint your models the way, maybe someday I'll do a painting video. You paint your models the way I do, which is treat them like they're a skittish cat, which is to say you sneak up on them and then you just touch them very, very gently. Basically, you want to, especially with automotive paint, you're looking at mist coats, basically, to get you up to a base, and then you wet coat. You do not attack things with a wet coat, especially with automotive paint. It is not model paint. It will etch your bodies at that point. But at any rate, guys, when the clear and paint interacted, it goes to my panel lines. Thankfully, you can't see it because I don't have enough light down here. But in the outside pictures, you probably will be able to see it. I could have dumped this whole body into the super clean purple pound and repainted it because I don't like this color anyway. But like I said, I want this to be the foundational model. My models from here on out will be judged against this build. Like I said, body is TS40 metallic black. The window trim, which you can't really see that much. Let's see here. Again, bear with the camera work, guys. We're just starting out here. The chassis itself is also TS40. The darker areas here and here are, well, that went really dark, didn't it? Those areas are semi-gloss black, as is this area here. The chassis, the components that are metallic are flat aluminum back here and right here. The engine itself is just the bottom section of an engine. There's no actual top to this engine, but it is molded free of the actual chassis. So there's space around here. When all these suspension parts aren't here, there's space. So, as you look at it, you can't necessarily see that this whole thing, there isn't a whole engine in here, which I like a lot in the sense that it doesn't necessarily look like it's just a flat piece of plastic molded on top of another flat piece of plastic. The engine tray, which you can see underneath the exhaust, and the engine itself are flat aluminum for the most part. The exhaust, the collectors and resonators and pipes are all Tamiya Acryl silver, or not silver, but steel rather. Tamiya Acryl steel is probably one of the best stains on the market. It's not a paint though. It works really lousy as a paint. Tamiya Acryl paints are to me not as good as Tamiya acrylic paints. The Acryl line is acrylic. That's what the Acryl thing stands for. And I really never had the problem with any of the other paints on the Acryl line. I have like Chevy engine red, Ford engine blue, a couple other colors, and I've never had the problem I have with the steel. And I've used now like 4 or 5 different bottles of steel. So I know it's not just like I have this one bad bottle, and I bought them over many courses of many trips to many different hobby shops in many different states. Because remember, guys, I drive a truck. And every one of them's been the same thing. Now, I will say that having learned what it is, or about the steel, I think it's fantastic because it makes a fantastic stain. This steel, these bands, which you can see are a little bit lighter color right there, are chrome silver X11 Tamiya. But the resonators and the exhaust pipes and all this stuff are all steel over a light gray acrylic base coat. Tamiya's acrylic paints, the acrylic steel paint, is the lousiest paint on the face of the planet. If you try to use it to paint a white piece of plastic, you'll more than likely have to paint the piece of plastic 5 times before it ends up looking like anything steel. However, I'm trying to put my finger in here for a however moment. However, if you paint it over something else, like I said, this is over a light gray. You paint it over black plastic. You paint it over black paint. You paint it over primer. You paint it over silver, copper, magnesium. I'm trying to think what the heck the color is. Gunmetal. If you paint it over any other color, it works like a tint or a stain or a wash, where it will retain a lot of the color underneath of it before you have to paint it 5 coats. I believe there's like 2 coats of paint on this, and so you end up with a very warm steel rather than something that is like a shiny steel. If you paint it over something silver, you get a very shiny steel. If you paint it over something gray, you end up with this sort of warmer shade of steel. If you paint it over something black, you get a very dark shade of steel. It is, like I said, the most fantastic stain ever created by any model company ever. It is a incredibly lousy paint, however. Know that going in. All of the window trim, it was unfortunately hand painted, so some of it's not as good as the other as it should be. No window masks in this kit. It's X18. It's semi-gloss black. Let's see here. And you can sort of see the weird texture the hood paint has. It's kind of smooth now because it's, like I said, it's been polished. The actual interior itself, we try to sneak up on the camera here, is X57, I believe is the color. It's desert yellow, which is a pretty good approximation of the platinum beige color that Porsche used on these cars. The back area here, as well as, well, I can't show you the inside of it, unfortunately, but the back area here is has embossing powder for carpet. I use a clear embossing powder, which allows you to paint the lightly paint the embossing powder, whatever color you need the interior to be. I forever see people going on and on and on about how they can't find flocking to match their interior. The embossing stuff is cheaper than flocking. It's not ground up carpet, so it scales down to carpet much nicer than flocking ever will. And if you get it in the clear thing, which see if I can grab real quick without knocking everything over, you can paint it whatever color you need to. Bought this at Michael's. It is the Stampendous brand. Stampendous, not stupendous, but Stampendous embossing powder. It looks white because of the reflection of the light into it, but it's opaque. It's sort of like a stained glass window when you actually have it out. And like I said, because it's clear, you can paint it whatever color you need to. I also have this in black. Go do a lot of interiors in black, but you can paint it whatever color you need to. Go ahead, try to paint your carpet a different color. Go ahead. I'll wait and let you see how that works, because it's not gonna. You're gonna end up like matting it all down and making it look messy. The Carrera script here on the back is hand painted using the 2 toothpicks method, which is you put paint on one toothpick and have another wetted toothpick, and you sort of hand paint or hand sign. In this case, the Carrera is a signature kind of script. You hand paint the signature, and then you go back in after, as it's drying, with a wet toothpick, and you pick the paint out of the crevices. Now, some people would say, well, that should be, foiled, and then, do the foil method where you put the foil down first and then sand it down. Well, this isn't chrome in real life. It's silver. You can't foil that if you want to look, correct, as it were. Plus, the foil will, unless you really have some, deft knife skills, will always be sitting in the middle of the A's, in the middle of the E's in the word Carrera. You look at this paint job, and it doesn't have that. Maybe someday we'll do a video on how to do the 2 toothpicks thing, on if I get another Porsche to be built. This is a X11 silver underneath the glass itself. Clear amber, clear red. This is just left clear, period. It's just reflecting the silver underneath of it. Almost picked it up by the mirror I just glued back on. That would have been good. This again is just clear amber. It's Tamiya decal from the kit itself. Just sitting there. No clear holding it down. It hasn't managed to, because I don't sit on the floor and play with my models and go vroom, vroom, vroom. It hasn't fallen off. I see a whole bunch of people saying, oh, you got to clear your decals. Guys, if you don't play with them, you don't have to clear them. I don't think this is going to end up showing very well. Let's see if we can let's hang on and see if we get focus. Let me take my hand out of here so it has something to focus on. Yep. I have a picture of it, so we'll show the picture later. But calipers are aluminum with a little bit of a wash on them. It has little itty bitty Porsche decals. I guess the only other thing to show here, again, your marker lights here, clear amber with a silver base, and then these exhaust tips were separate, and they have just a it's not going to focus, but we'll get the camera down, guys. We really will. The exhaust tips were separate pieces. Obviously, they're on the chrome tree, and then I took gunmetal, and I put gunmetal into the business end of the exhaust pipe, as it were, to darken the inside of it up so it doesn't look so bad. So, like I said, we'll throw some still pics up, let you guys see what this thing looks like in the sun, and that's the first one and only build for 2014. Apologize for the length of the video, because I think it's going to be running like 35 minutes, but that's what we did this year. So go ahead and comment down in the comment section. Let me know how junky it is, because believe me, I know how junky it is. The thing about critical commenting online and constructive criticism and stuff like that is, I believe anybody who builds models in a serious fashion, and by that I mean you try to do the best you can with every model. It doesn't mean you're anal retentive or anything like that. It just means there's plenty of ways to have fun while building a good model kit, as far as I'm concerned. You're trying to build the best model kit you can. Is that anything anybody will ever say about this model kit, I already know, and I can see 10 other things that are wrong with it. So, it is what it is. It is like I said, it is that model that I will have, hopefully, for the rest of my life, that will be the model that shows where I came from. So, we hope you guys enjoy the video. Go ahead and comment. Subscribe to the channel. 50 subscribers, so yay. When we get up to 100, we're going to do something special. So, I'm going to start posting these videos onto other formats, because they don't necessarily, relate entirely to the stash project stuff. So maybe we'll get some more eyeballs that way. And, guys, beyond that, January video will be up in a couple days. I've got it recorded, just need to edit it. We finally got round 2's release information. We're going to do the 2015, what am I working on video, and then we'll be going on from there. So we hope you enjoyed it. Okay, see you on the other side.